The smell of antiseptic couldn't hide the scent of my alpha on another Omega's skin. I woke to the bite of metal against my wrists, handcuffs cold and unforgiving, chaining me to hospital rails. The fluorescent lights above flickered like dying stars, and somewhere beneath the thin gown they'd dressed me in, warmth spread between my thighs. Blood. Too much blood. My hands flew to my swollen belly. The twins. Oh God, the twins. A contraction ripped through me, stealing my breath, and I bit down on my lip to keep from screaming. Through the gap in the door, voices filtered in, clinical, detached, discussing me like I was already a corpse. The Omega won't survive delivery. Jaehyun's voice. My alpha. My mate. Make it look natural. Sir, we could stabilize him. Did I stutter? Extract the children. Clean this up. 6 hours ago, I'd walked into our penthouse and found him. Jaehyun. My bonded alpha. The man who'd promised me forever under cherry blossoms just 8 months prior. He was pressed against the floor-to-ceiling windows, Jung Harin, the son of our allied family, bent beneath him. But it wasn't the sex that shattered me. It was the claiming bite on Harin's neck, fresh and bleeding, Jaehyun's alpha mark embedded in pale skin where mine should have been sacred. Jaehyun. My voice had cracked like glass. He'd looked at me with eyes emptier than winter. No shame. No regret. Just calculation. Minicio. You're home early. What is this? Harin had the decency to look away. Jaehyun simply adjusted his clothes, stepped over the scattered evidence of their passion, and faced me like we were discussing business. You were temporary, he'd said, each word a knife between my ribs. He's the alliance I need. The family I was always meant to build. I'm pregnant. With your children. Those children will have a proper parent. Someone politically valuable. His eyes had dropped to my belly with the warmth of a stranger. You've served your purpose. Another contraction slammed into me, dragging me back to the present nightmare. They were coming. My babies were coming, and I was chained to a bed in a room that smelled like death. The door opened. Medical staff in surgical masks surrounded me. Too many hands, too many instruments. Wait, please. Prep for emergency C-section, someone ordered. No, I can deliver them, just give me. A nurse leaned close, her eyes wet above her mask. I'm sorry, she whispered, and I felt the needle pierce my arm. Ice flooded my veins. The room tilted. My vision blurred at the edges, darkness creeping in like ink in water. Through the closing tunnel of my consciousness, I saw him. Jaehyun stood in the doorway, backlit by the hallway fluorescence, his silhouette sharp and unmoving. He didn't enter, didn't speak, didn't reach for me as I drowned in whatever poison they'd given me. He just watched. My alpha watched me die. The last thing I felt was my children moving inside me, fighting to stay in the only home they'd ever known. I died that night. At least, that's what the death certificate said. Before I tell you what happens next, subscribe to Starry-Eyed Lovers and tell me where you're watching from. I woke to concrete and silence. The ceiling above me was gray cement, water-stained and cracked like spider webs. Medical equipment beeped somewhere to my left, monitors I didn't remember being attached to. The air tasted recycled, underground, nothing like the sterile hospital where I'd died. My hands moved to my stomach on instinct, and the wrongness hit me like a physical blow. Flat. Empty. A raised scar ran horizontal across my lower abdomen, still pink and healing. C-section. They'd cut my children out of me. No. The words scraped out of my throat. No. I tried to sit up, but my body was a stranger's, weak, hollow, a shell that had been gutted and left to rot. Panic clawed up my chest. Where were my babies? Where was I? How was I even alive? The door opened with a heavy metallic groan. The man who entered wasn't medical staff. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a scar running through his left eyebrow and the cold efficiency of someone who'd killed before. He stopped at the foot of my bed, arms crossed. You're awake. Good. Boss wants to see you. Who? My voice cracked. Who are you? Where am I? Name's Choi Min-jae. You're in a secure facility. Neutral territory. He pulled a tablet from his jacket. Before you ask the obvious questions, yes, you should be dead. No, your alpha doesn't know you survived. And your children are alive. The world tilted. My children, where are they? Listen carefully, because I'm only explaining this once. Min-jae's voice was flat, reciting facts. 8 months ago, you were supposed to die in a car explosion after emergency surgery. The explosion happened. The car burned. Dental records confirmed a body. Official death certificate was filed within 48 hours. But the explosion was sabotaged by one of our operatives. You were extracted before the blast. The body they found wasn't yours. He swiped the tablet. Your twins were born via emergency C-section. A boy and a girl. Healthy. They were taken immediately and registered under Jung Ha-rin's name as the biological mother. Kang Jae-hyun's legitimate heirs. The room spun. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think past the roaring in my ears. My babies, he gave them to his new Omega, the politically advantageous one. Min-jae's expression didn't change. They're being raised in Kang's compound as the perfect mafia family. The scandal of a dead pregnant Omega was buried with you. Something broke inside me. Not cleanly like before. This was a shattering, a complete destruction of whatever fragments I'd been holding together. A sound tore from my throat, animal and raw, and I couldn't stop it. 8 months. My children were 8 months old, and I'd never held them. Never scented them. Never. Enough. The new voice cut through my breakdown like a blade. A man stepped into the room, and the temperature seemed to drop. Taller than Min-jae, with sharp features and eyes like winter, calculating, cold, missing nothing. His presence filled the space, an alpha's dominance that made my Omega instincts recoil and submit simultaneously. Han Tae-suk. I knew him by reputation. Kang Jae-hyun's greatest rival. Lee Min-seo. He said my name like he was examining it. The Omega who came back from the dead. I couldn't speak. Could barely look at him. You want revenge? Tae-suk moved closer, each step deliberate. You want your children back? Then work with me. Why? The word was broken glass in my mouth. Why would you save me? Because Kang Jae-hyun took something from me once. And I've learned that watching a man lose everything he's built is worth more than simply killing him. Tae-suk's smile was sharp enough to cut. Your ex-alpha consolidated his power through Ha-rin's family connections. The twins are heirs to a merged empire. You, the dead Omega who was erased, are the scandal that could destroy it all. They're children. My children. Not chess pieces. Everything is a chess piece in this world. But unlike Kang, I'm offering you a choice. He pulled out his phone, swiped to a photograph, and turned it toward me. This is what you're fighting for. The image on the screen stopped my heart. 2 babies. A boy and a girl, maybe 8 months old, sitting on an expensive carpet surrounded by toys they were too young to use. The boy had my nose. The girl had my eyes. Both had Jae-hyun's dark hair. Kang Saiwoo and Kang Minji, Tae-suk said. Those are the names he gave them. Not the names I'd chosen. Not the names I'd whispered to them while they grew inside me. Stolen. Everything had been stolen. If I help you, I whispered, unable to look away from my children's faces, what happens to them? That depends on how smart you are. Tae-suk pocketed the phone. Contact them now, and Kang will have you killed, properly this time. He'll erase any evidence you existed, and your children will never know their real parent. He paused. Or you can be patient. Strategic. We build a case, gather evidence, and when the time is right, you take back everything he stole. Including my children? Especially your children. I looked at him, really looked. This alpha wanted to use me. That much was obvious. But for the first time in 8 months, someone was offering me a weapon instead of making me a victim. My body. I gestured to the hollowness, the wrongness. I can feel it. The bond. He's still. We'll manage it. Medical intervention, suppressants, whatever you need. Tae-suk's expression didn't soften. Your Omega biology is struggling without your alpha and without your children. But you're stronger than that. You survived when you were supposed to be Ash. He was right. I had survived. And now I had a choice. If I contact them now, you kill them, I said slowly. You said that. Yes. Then I won't contact them. Not until I can keep them safe. I met his eyes, and something shifted in my chest. Not breaking. Hardening. I want them back. All of it. My life. My name. My children. Tae-suk's smile was approval and danger in equal measure. Then welcome back from the dead, Lee Min-seo. Over the next weeks, I learned what it meant to be a ghost. To move through the world as someone erased. To strengthen a body that had been left for dead. To suppress heat cycles that screamed for an alpha who'd never deserved them. Tae-suk's medical team worked efficiently, asking no questions I couldn't answer. And then one evening, he brought me another photo. The twins were bigger now. Sitting up. Smiling at something off camera. Living whole lives I wasn't part of. If you contact them now, you kill them, Tae-suk reminded me quietly. I traced my daughter's face on the screen. My son's tiny hand. I won't, I promised. To him. To them. To myself. They stole my name, my life, my children. I would steal it all back, one piece at a time. The estate looked like something from a fairy tale. White marble columns, gardens manicured to perfection, and enormous balloon arches spelling out, Happy Third Birthday, in gold and silver. From my position behind the telephoto lens, half a mile away on the hillside, I watched politicians and mafia bosses arrive in luxury cars, all coming to celebrate children they believed belonged to Kang Jae-hyun and Young Harin. My children. Target acquired. I murmured into the calm Tae-suk's voice crackled back, calm and clinical. Remember, observe only. No contact. But how could I just observe? Through the lens, I watched a little girl in a pink dress run across the lawn, dark pigtails bouncing. Minji. My daughter. She'd grown so much. And behind her, more cautious, a boy in a tiny suit, Saiwoo. My son. They were real. Solid. Alive in a way photographs couldn't capture. The Omega instinct hit me like a freight train. Even from this distance, my body knew. Recognized. The bond that should have formed at birth screamed through my chest, a phantom limb that ached and burned. I gripped the camera tighter, fighting the overwhelming urge to run down that hill and gather them into my arms. Mama! Mama, watch! Minji's voice carried on the wind, high and sweet and destroying me. Harin appeared, elegant in cream silk, and swept my daughter into his arms. The perfect picture of Omega parenthood. And Minji, my Minji, wrapped her small arms around his neck and giggled. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think past the pain splitting my chest where the bond should have been. Jae-hyun moved through the crowd with practiced ease, accepting congratulations and well wishes for his beautiful family. His twins, the public story went, were the perfect blend of him and Harin. Strong alpha genes, refined Omega grace. The merger of two powerful families made flesh. But something was wrong. It had been wrong since the beginning, though he'd convinced himself it was normal. The twins didn't smell right to him. Oh, they carried his scent. Alpha lineage was unmistakable. But the Omega notes were off. Subtle, like wearing clothes that didn't quite fit. Harin approached with Minji on his hip, the picture of domestic bliss. Darling, the minister wants to discuss the expansion. Of course. Jae-hyun pressed a kiss to Harin's temple for the cameras, felt him stiffen slightly. They were perfect in public. In private, Harin's smiles never reached his eyes. Saiwoo tugged on his pant leg. Papa, can we have cake now? Soon, son. Jae-hyun ruffled the boy's hair, and for just a moment, Min-seo had loved chocolate cake. Would crave it during the pregnancy, eating it with his fingers at 3 in the morning while... No. He crushed the memory before it could fully form. Min-seo was dead. Had been dead for 2 years. This was his family now. Boss. His head of security materialized at his elbow. We've had another shipment disruption. Third one this month. Pattern suggests Han Tae-suk's organization. Jae-hyun's jaw tightened. Handle it. Today is about my children. But the mention of Tae-suk's name left a bitter taste in his mouth. His old rival had been too quiet lately. Too strategic. Something was coming. I waited until 3 in the morning, when the mansion finally went dark. Tae-suk's intelligence was flawless. Security rotations, camera blind spots, the exact layout of the children's wing. I moved through the shadows like the ghost I was, wearing scent blockers that made me invisible to alpha senses, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. The twins' bedroom was decorated in soft pastels and expensive toys they were still too young to appreciate. And there, in their small beds, they slept. I approached Minji first, my daughter, and the need to reach out was almost unbearable. She'd inherited my nose, my chin. Her small chest rose and fell with peaceful breaths. I wanted to scent her, to let my Omega pheromones wrap around her, and tell her body what her mind couldn't know. I'm your parent. I'm here. But scenting would leave traces. Chemical evidence that another Omega had been close. Sai was stirred in the adjacent bed, making a small sound. I moved to him, drinking in every detail. His serious expression, even in sleep. The way his hand clutched a stuffed bear. Mama. Minji's sleepy voice froze me in place. She hadn't opened her eyes, still caught in dreams, but the words stabbed through my chest like a blade. She called someone else, Mama. Someone else got her first words, first steps, first everything. I knelt beside her bed, close enough to feel her warmth, but not close enough to touch. I'm here, I whispered, so quiet it was almost nothing. I promise, baby. I'm here. Footsteps in the hallway. A guard's radio crackled. I moved on instinct, slipping behind the curtains as the door cracked open. A security guard swept a flashlight across the room, paused, then moved on. My heart thundered. Too close. Too careless. I waited 5 agonizing minutes before escaping the way I came. The image of my sleeping children burned into my memory. Tae-suk was waiting in the control room when I returned to base, arms crossed, his expression thunderous. You compromised the mission. I didn't touch them. I stripped off the surveillance gear, hands shaking. I was careful. Careful. He moved fast, backing me against the wall. You went inside. We agreed on external surveillance only. They're my children. The words came out fierce, defensive. I needed to see them, to know they were real. They were always real, Minesio. His voice dropped dangerously low. But you don't belong to them anymore. You belong to me now. Not them. Not him. Me. The possessiveness in his tone should have frightened me. Instead, something dark and complicated twisted in my chest. I'm not property. No. His hand came up, not touching but close enough that I could feel the heat. You're a weapon. My weapon. And I won't let you dull your edge on sentiment. We stared at each other, tension crackling like electricity. Finally, Taesuk stepped back. Sit down. We're accelerating the timeline. He pulled up files on the screen. Financial records, coded transactions, evidence of embezzlement and fraud. Jaehyun's empire is built on laundered money and political bribes. We leak this to the right people, and his perfect family image starts to crack. And then we watch him scramble. Watch his allies question their loyalty. Watch the foundation crumble. Taesuk's smile was sharp as broken glass. You wanted revenge, Minesio. This is how it starts. I looked at the evidence, at the ammunition we'd been gathering for 2 years, at the path that would lead me back to my children, even if it meant burning down everything Jaehyun had built. Do it, I said quietly. Good. Taesuk's hand settled on my shoulder, possessive and grounding. Let them think they're safe. Let them celebrate their perfect life. I thought of my children sleeping peacefully in beds that should have been mine to tuck them into. Of the Alpha who'd stolen everything, and the Omega who'd taken my place. Empires built on lies always fall the hardest, I whispered. And I meant it. The photograph was creased from being hidden, folded and unfolded too many times in moments of weakness. Jung Harin stared at it now, alone in his dressing room while the rest of the mansion slept. Lee Minesio smiled back at him from the image. Young, radiant, pregnant, and glowing at some garden party 2.5 years ago. Dead. Officially dead. But Harin knew better. He'd been there that night at the hospital. Had watched from the shadows as they'd wheeled Minesio's unconscious body toward the surgical wing, belly swollen with twins that weren't supposed to survive their carrier's accident. He'd heard Jaehyun's voice, cold as winter steel. Clean this up completely. No loose ends. Harin had expected to see a body bag. Instead, he'd seen something else. Medical staff moving with strange urgency. A secondary team that didn't match the hospital's usual personnel, and Minesio's gurney disappearing down a corridor that didn't lead to the morgue. No death confirmation. No body viewing. Just a closed casket funeral 3 days later, and a death certificate that appeared with suspicious speed. And then Jaehyun had turned to him with those empty eyes and said, "The twins survived. You'll raise them as yours. Our families are united now." Harin had taken the babies, still nameless, hours old, ripped from their dying parent, and told himself he had no choice. His family had brokered this alliance. His father had made it clear, cooperate or be disowned. Refuse, and accidents happened to disobedient sons. So he'd become a mother to children who weren't his, and tried not to think about the Omega who might still be breathing somewhere, mourning the life that had been stolen. "Mama," Harin startled, shoving the photograph back into its hiding place. Sai stood in the doorway, clutching his stuffed bear, dark eyes too knowing for a child barely 3 years old. "What's wrong, sweetheart? Bad dream?" "No." Saiwu patted closer, and Harin lifted him onto his lap, breathing in the scent of baby shampoo and something else. Something floral and foreign that didn't come from Harin's body chemistry. "Mama, why don't we smell like you?" The question hit like a physical blow. "What do you mean?" "Minji and me. We smell different. Papa smells like smoke and rain. You smell like vanilla. But we smell like..." Saiwa's small face scrunched in concentration. "Flowers. Sad flowers." Omega children could sense biological parents. Harin knew this. Had read the literature with growing dread as the twins developed. Their instincts were awakening, and no amount of bonding could override blood. "You smell like me," Harin lied, hating himself. "You're just imagining things." "I'm not." Minji's voice came from the doorway. She looked ethereal in her nightgown, dark hair loose around her shoulders. "I dreamed about someone crying. They smelled like flowers. Like us. Like..." She tilted her head. "Like home, but not this home. Baby, it was just a dream." "Was it?" Minji climbed onto Harin's other knee, and he held them both, these children he loved despite everything. "Mama, who cries for us? No one. I'm here. Papa's here. You're safe." But the lies tasted like ash, and the twins' identical expressions told him they didn't believe him anymore. The message was sent through 3 encrypted channels to a neutral intermediary Harin had paid a fortune to locate. Simple. Direct. Damning. I know Lee Minesio survived. I want to help. The response came faster than expected. A location, a time, a warning that coming meant accepting unknown consequences. Harin went anyway. The warehouse was abandoned, or appeared to be. He'd barely stepped inside when figures materialized from the shadows, armed, professional, moving with the efficiency of Han Tae-suk's people. And then Tae-suk himself appeared, flanked by guards, his expression unreadable. Young Harin, you've been busy. I came alone. I'm not armed. Harin raised his hands slowly. I meant what I said in the message. Did you? Another voice, trembling with barely contained fury. Min Seo stepped into the light, and Harin's breath caught. He was thinner than in the photograph, harder, with eyes that held the kind of pain that transformed people into weapons. But he was alive. Undeniably, impossibly alive. You're raising my children. Minasio's voice cracked. You sleep in my place, hold my babies, let them call you mama while I had no choice. The words burst out of Harin before he could stop them. Do you think I wanted this? Do you think I wanted to take everything from you? You could have said no. And I. Harin's voice rose to match his. My family brokered the alliance. Jaehyun's people made it clear, cooperate, or there would be consequences. Not just for me. My parents, my sister, everyone I love would have. His voice broke. I was trapped. I am trapped. Min Seo stared at him, rage warring with something that might have been understanding. You knew I might be alive. I suspected. I hoped. Harin swallowed hard. I saw them take you that night. Saw things that didn't add up. But what could I do? Jaehyun controls everything. If I'd asked questions, if I'd pushed, he would have killed you too, Tae-suk finished coldly. How touching. 2 Omegas destroyed by the same Alpha's ambition. I love them. Harin's voice dropped to a whisper. Your children. I've cared for them, protected them. They're safe with me, and I. Tears burned his eyes. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for what was stolen from you. The silence stretched thin and dangerous. Finally, Min Seo spoke, each word carefully controlled. Do you mean that? The apology? Yes. Then prove it. Min Seo stepped closer. Help me. Give me information. Access. Everything I need to get them back. This could be a trap, Tae-suk warned. He goes back to Jaehyun, tells him everything. It's not a trap. Harin met Min Seo's eyes. But I have one condition. Whatever you do, however you take down Jaehyun, the twins' safety comes first. Above revenge. Above everything. They always come first, Min Seo said quietly. They're my children. Then we have an agreement. Harin pulled out his phone, hands shaking. I can give you schedules, security protocols, financial records. But you have to promise me, when this is over, when you have them back, let me say goodbye properly. Let me explain why I couldn't save you both. Min Seo's expression was unreadable. I promise. Tae-suk looked between them, suspicion clear in every line of his body. If you betray us, I'll kill you myself. Slowly. I know. Harin straightened his spine. But I won't betray you. This is my chance to make something right in this nightmare. Jaehyun was waiting when Harin returned home, sitting in the dark study like a predator. You've been distant lately, Jaehyun said, swirling whiskey in his glass. Where were you tonight? Meeting with the charity committee. Planning the winter gala. The lie came smoothly practiced. Harin moved to kiss Jaehyun's cheek, playing the dutiful Omega. You look stressed, darling. Is it the supply chain issues? Among other things. Jaehyun pulled him into his lap, possessive and searching. You'd tell me if something was wrong, wouldn't you? Of course. Harin molded himself to Jaehyun's body, hiding the revulsion. You're my alpha. My everything. The words tasted like poison. Later, when Jaehyun finally slept, Harin crept to the twins' room. He photographed them sleeping peacefully, their small faces soft with dreams, and sent the image through the encrypted channel. They ask about you in their dreams. Min Seo's response came almost immediately. Tell me everything. Harin began typing, fingers steady despite his racing heart. Security codes. Meeting schedules. Jaehyun's weaknesses. Every secret that could be weaponized. The perfect family was rotting from inside, and he was the poison they'd invited in. Before I tell you what happens next, subscribe to Starry-Eyed Lovers and tell me where you're watching from. The park was perfect, public enough to seem innocent, isolated enough for Tae-suk's team to secure the perimeter. Harin had chosen well. I stood by the playground equipment, wearing heavy scent blockers and fighting the urge to vomit from sheer anxiety. They'll be here in 5 minutes, Tae-suk's voice crackled through my earpiece. Remember the story. You're Harin's friend. Nothing more. Uncle Mincio, I whispered, testing the words. Not Appa. Not Daddy. Just a stranger who happened to share a name with a ghost. My body knew before my mind did. The Omega instinct that had been screaming for 3 years suddenly sharpened, focused, oriented toward two small sources of recognition approaching through the park gate. My chest ached. My hands trembled. Every cell in my body was pulling me toward them. Harin appeared first, holding the twins' hands. Minji in a yellow dress. Saiwu in overalls. Both so much bigger than in the photographs. And then Minji's head snapped up, dark eyes finding me across the distance with unnerving precision. She let go of Harin's hand and walked straight toward me. Each step deliberate, her small face intense with concentration. She stopped 3 feet away, tilted her head, and inhaled deeply. You smell like my dreams, she said. The world stopped. Minji, sweetheart. Harin started, but she ignored him, stepping closer to me. You smell like flowers. Sad flowers. Like. Her small hand reached out, and when her fingers touched mine, something inside me shattered and healed simultaneously. Like home. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, could only stare at my daughter, as she studied me with eyes that were far too knowing. Saiwu approached more cautiously, staying half hidden behind Harin's leg. Mama, why doesn't Uncle smell like other people? He's just different. Harin's voice was strained. Min, Uncle Mincio, these are the children I told you about. Saiwu, Minji, can you say hello? I knelt down, bringing myself to their level, and the movement brought me close enough that the scent blockers couldn't completely mask my biology. Minji's nostrils flared. Recognition flickered across her face, something deeper than memory, written in DNA and Omega pheromones. Hello, I managed, my voice breaking. It's nice to meet you both. You're crying, Minji observed. Then, so quietly I almost missed it, she leaned close and whispered. Appa. My heart stopped. Harin gasped. I never taught them that word for anyone but Jae-hyun, Harin said, face pale. Never. How could she? Blood remembers, I whispered, pulling Minji into my arms before I could stop myself. She came willingly, wrapping small arms around my neck and breathing deeply against my skin. Oh God, baby. My baby. Saiwu watched this with wide eyes, then slowly approached. Are you our real Appa? I looked at Harin helplessly. We'd agreed on a story. On maintaining the lie. But how could I lie when my daughter was clinging to me like she'd been waiting 3 years for this moment? Your Appa is at home, Harin said gently, crouching beside us. Uncle Mincio is a very special friend of mine. But he smells right, Minji insisted. She touched my face, small fingers tracing my cheeks. Why are you crying? Because I'm happy to meet you. Not entirely a lie. I was drowning in happiness and grief in equal measure. Do you know stories? Saiwu asked, inching closer. Mama Harin reads us stories, but sometimes I remember different ones. Ones no one told me. My hands shook. What kind of stories? About a rabbit who was afraid of the moon, Saiwu said, and a fox who learned to be brave. The story I'd made up during my pregnancy, whispering to them through my skin during sleepless nights. A story I'd never written down, never told anyone. I know that story, I said, voice raw. Would you like to hear it again? Both children nodded, and for the next hour, I told them stories they shouldn't have remembered. Stories from before birth, from when they'd lived inside me and I'd promised them the world. Minji sat in my lap. Saiwu leaned against my side. And every few minutes, one of them would touch my face or sniff my neck, their Omega instincts trying to solve a puzzle their minds were too young to understand. I know that story, Minji exclaimed after the third tale. I dreamed it. Me too, Saiwu whispered. How did you know our dreams? Because I gave them to you, I wanted to say. Because you lived inside me, heard my heartbeat, breathed my air. Because you're mine. Lucky guess, I said instead. Harin's phone rang, shrill and intrusive. His face went white as he checked the screen. It's Jae-hyun. I have to. Answer it. Taesuk's voice commanded through our earpieces. Act normal. Harin stepped away, but I could hear his side of the conversation. Yes, darling? We're at the park. I told you this morning. Yes, they're fine. Right now? But we just got here. Of course. We'll come home immediately. He ended the call, expression tight with fear. We have to go. Now. He's suspicious. No. Minji's arms tightened around my neck. I want to stay with Uncle. Sweetheart, we have to go home. No. No, no, no. She began to cry, real tears, and the sound tore through me like claws. Saiwu grabbed my hand, holding tight. Please don't make us leave, he whispered. You smell safe. I looked at Harin, at the panic in his eyes. then at my children who were clinging to me like they'd always known I was theirs. Every instinct screamed to run, to take them and never look back. But Taesuk's voice was firm in my ear. Let them go. If you don't, Jaehyun will know something's wrong. I have to let you go, I told them, my voice breaking. But I promise I'll see you again soon. You promise? Minji searched my face. I promise, baby. I promise. Separating from them was agony. Physical pain that made my previous suffering seem trivial. Harin had to pry Minji's hands from my neck while she sobbed. Saiwoo went more quietly, but he looked back 3 times as they walked away, his small face devastated. I watched until they disappeared through the park gate, then collapsed onto the bench, shaking so hard I couldn't stand. Taesuk found me there 20 minutes later, still trembling, tears I couldn't stop streaming down my face. He didn't say anything at first, just sat beside me and let me break apart. They knew me, I finally gasped. They knew me, and I had to let them go. Blood always knows. His hand found my shoulder, grounding and solid. I didn't believe in bonds before. Thought it was Omega superstition, biological nonsense. He paused. Until I saw you with them. I looked at him through blurred vision. What are you saying? That you're their parent? Not Harin. Not in any way that matters. His hand moved to cup my face, thumb brushing away tears. And that I'll help you get them back, even if it costs me everything. Something shifted between us in that moment. The alliance we'd built, the revenge we'd plotted, it was more now. Something deeper. More dangerous. I'm taking them back, I said, voice steady despite the tears. No matter the cost. I know. Taesuk's expression was fierce, protective, possessive. And I'll make sure you succeed. Jaehyun knew something was wrong the moment Harin and the twins returned. The children were subdued, Minji's eyes red from crying. And they wouldn't stop talking about Uncle Minseo. He smelled like flowers, Papa, Minji said at dinner. He knew our stories. The rabbit and the moon story, Saiwoo added. The one I always dream about. What stories? Jaehyun's instincts prickled. Just children's tales. Harin's smile was too bright. My friend is very good with kids. Later, after the twins were in bed, Jaehyun found Minji's drawing on the kitchen counter. Crayon rendering of a person surrounded by flowers. The figure was crying. Who is this? He asked Harin. Just someone she met today. My friend. Your friend. Jaehyun studied the drawing, unease crawling up his spine. The proportions were wrong for a child's drawing. Too detailed, too specific. Like Minji had been drawing from memory rather than imagination. What's his name? Harin hesitated half a second too long. Minseo. The name hit Jaehyun like a bullet. That's not funny. It's a common name. Is it? Jaehyun's alpha senses were screaming danger. I want a full background check on this friend of yours. By morning. That's not necessary. I'll decide what's necessary. He stared at the drawing again, at the flowers that seemed to weep. The dead don't come back, Harin. But ghosts. He looked up, meeting Harin's terrified eyes. Ghosts haunt until the guilty pay. The Summit Hall was everything the Mafia valued. Excessive wealth masquerading as legitimacy. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, and regional bosses in $1,000 suits pretending their empires weren't built on blood and extortion. Jaehyun stood at the center of it all, the image of consolidated power, addressing the assembly with the confidence of a man who believed himself untouchable. Family is everything, he declared, voice carrying through the space. Loyalty is blood. These are the principles that have guided our alliance, that have brought prosperity to all our territories. I watched from the back of the room, disguised in a tailored suit and heavy scent blockers that made me invisible to alpha senses. My hands clenched into fists as he continued his speech, every word a mockery of the family he'd destroyed, the blood he'd spilled. Our children represent the future, Jaehyun said, gesturing broadly. The next generation, raised with our values, our strength. Our children. He called them our like he had any right. Like he hadn't stolen them from my dying body. Taesuk stood beside me, a picture of casual menace in his dark suit. Easy, he murmured. Wait for it. The doors at the far end opened, and a messenger hurried in, whispering urgently to one of the allied family heads. Then another messenger. And another. Confusion rippled through the assembly like a stone dropped in still water. What's the meaning of this? One of the bosses demanded, holding up his phone. These financial records, they show massive discrepancies in the alliance accounts. That's absurd, Jaehyun snapped. Our books are clean. Are they? Taesuk's voice cut through the room like a blade. He stepped forward, every eye turning to him. Because the documents being circulated right now tell a very different story. Chaos erupted. Phones buzzed. Voices rose. Evidence spread through the room. Carefully curated financial records showing years of embezzlement, laundered money, funds siphoned from allied families to build Jae-hyun's personal empire. This is a fabrication. Jae-hyun's composure cracked. Han Tae-suk, you've always been jealous of what I've built. Jealous? Tae-suk laughed, the sound cold and sharp. I don't envy empires built on murdered omegas. The temperature in the room dropped. Jae-hyun's face went carefully blank, but I saw the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands clenched. Choose your next words carefully, Han. Or what? You'll have me killed like you killed Lee Min-seo. Tae-suk's smile was vicious. Your perfect family is built on corpses, Kong. But corpses have a way of coming back to haunt the guilty. Jae-hyun moved fast, alpha pheromones flooding the room in a display of dominance. That name means nothing. He's dead. 3 years dead. Is he? Tae-suk met the pheromone challenge with his own, 2 alpha wills colliding in the space between them. Or did you just bury the evidence? You're insane. Am I? Tell me, Kong. How do your children smell to you? Do they smell like Harin? Or do they smell like someone else entirely? Jae-hyun froze. Something flickered across his face. Doubt, fear, realization. Who told you to look into my family? Someone who knows all your secrets. Tae-suk's grin was predatory. Someone who's been watching. Waiting. Planning. The violence erupted before I could process it. Jae-hyun lunged, Tae-suk met him, and suddenly bodyguards were drawing weapons, the summit dissolving into factional chaos. But I couldn't stay hidden anymore. Couldn't watch him deny my existence while standing 10 feet away. I tore off the scent blockers. The effect was immediate. My omega pheromones hit the room like a tidal wave, distinct, undeniable, carrying the signature that 3 years ago had been bonded to Kong Jae-hyun. Every alpha in the room turned, searching for the source, but none so violently as Jae-hyun himself. He staggered like he'd been shot, his body recognizing what his mind refused to accept. Our eyes met across the chaos, and I watched his world shatter in real time. No. The word was barely a whisper. No, you can't be. I stepped forward, shedding the disguise like a second skin, letting him see every scar, every change, every hard edge I'd earned surviving his murder attempt. Did you mourn me? My voice cut through the noise, stopping everyone mid-motion. Or just the scandal? Min-seo. He said my name like a prayer and a curse. You're alive. You are how? Does it matter? I moved closer, watching him recoil. You ordered my death. You stole my children. You erased me from existence and built your perfect empire on my grave. I never ordered, his face twisted. The explosion was supposed to be. I thought you were dead. You thought wrong. I smiled, and it was nothing like the smile I'd worn when I loved him. Surprise. He reached for me, alpha instinct overriding reason, but Tae-suk was faster. His hand locked around Jae-hyun's wrist with crushing force. Don't touch him. He's not yours anymore. He's my bonded omega. Was your bonded omega. Before you tried to kill him. Tae-suk shoved him back. Now he belongs to me. The possessiveness in those words should have bothered me. Instead, I felt protected. Claimed in a way that honored rather than erased. Jae-hyun's expression cycled through shock, rage, grief, denial. The twins, oh God, the twins. They're yours. They were always, Min-seo. I didn't know you survived, I swear. You didn't know because you didn't care. I backed toward Tae-suk's team, who were forming a protective barrier. You got what you wanted. Power. Alliance. Perfect family. And now you get to watch me take it all back. Find him. Jae-hyun roared as we moved toward the exit. Don't let him leave this building. But Tae-suk's extraction was flawless. Smoke grenades, strategically placed exits, a motorcade waiting. Within minutes, we were speeding away from the summit as sirens wailed, and the alliance Jae-hyun had built began its spectacular collapse. I sat in the back of the armored vehicle, shaking so hard my teeth chattered. Adrenaline and 3 years of suppressed emotion crashed over me in waves. There's no going back now, Tae-suk said, watching me with concern and something darker. Satisfaction, maybe. He knows you're alive. His allies know he's a fraud. The war's officially started. Good. I looked at him, at this alpha who'd saved me, used me, protected me, and somehow become more than either of us had planned. I don't want to go back. His phone buzzed. News alerts flooding in. One headline made his expression sharpen. Kong Jae-hyun declares Han Tae-suk's organization hostile. Full territorial war imminent. He's cornered now, Tae-suk observed. Dangerous. Let him be dangerous. I thought of my children, of Minji's whispered appa, of Saiwa's recognition. I've been dead for 3 years. I've got nothing left to lose. Yes, you do. Tae-suk's hand found mine, grip firm and grounding. You've got them. And you've got me. The weight of that promise settled over us as the city lights blurred past. Somewhere behind us, Jae-hyun was making panicked calls, his perfect world crumbling. Somewhere ahead, my children were sleeping, unaware that the ghost they'd sensed was real. I wanted him to see me, to know his greatest sin was still breathing. Now let him choke on it. Before I tell you what happens next, subscribe to Starry-Eyed Lovers, and tell me where you're watching from. Saiwood didn't understand why their house felt scary now. There were men with guns everywhere, in the hallways, by the doors, even outside his and Minji's bedroom window. Papa's face looked different too. Not angry exactly, but something worse. Something that made Saiwood's tummy hurt when he looked at him. Minji, he whispered across their shared room. Are we in trouble? His sister sat up in bed, hugging her stuffed rabbit. I don't think so. But something's wrong. Is it because of Uncle Mincio? Minji's face got that stubborn look that meant she was about to say something grown-ups didn't like. I miss him. He smelled nice. Why can't we see him anymore? The next morning at breakfast, she asked Papa directly. When can we visit Uncle Mincio again? Papa's fork clattered against his plate. His face went pale, then red, and his voice came out scary loud. Never say that name again. Do you understand me? Never. Saiwa flinched. Minji's eyes filled with tears, but she lifted her chin. But he's our real. Enough! Papa slammed his hand on the table, making everything jump. Saiwa started crying. He couldn't help it. From down the hall, they could hear Mama Harin crying too. He'd been crying a lot lately, locked in his room where he thought they couldn't hear. Saiwa didn't understand any of it. He just knew that the man who smelled like flowers and told them the moon rabbit story was gone, and everyone was sad and angry, and nothing felt safe anymore. Jae-hyun stared at the private investigator's report, his hands shaking. Subject, Lee Min-seo. Status, alive. Current location, unknown, presumed under Han Tae-suk's protection. Medical records from 3 years prior had been falsified. The explosion had been real, but the body identified as Min-seo's belonged to someone else entirely. He'd been alive this whole time. While Jae-hyun built his empire, raised the twins as his own, convinced himself that sacrificing one Omega for political power had been necessary, Min-seo had been alive. The security footage was worse. Recovered CCTV from the park showed everything. Min-seo kneeling in front of the twins. Minji walking straight to him like she'd been pulled by invisible threads. The way both children had touched his face, clung to him, looked at him with recognition that should have been impossible. Jae-hyun watched the silent footage, his throat tight. The audio was corrupted, but he could read Minji's lips as she leaned close to Min-seo's ear. Appa. His daughter had called another man Appa. No, not another man. Her real parent. The Omega who'd carried her, who'd died, who'd almost died, bringing her into this world. Jae-hyun's hand moved to pause the video on Min-seo's face. He looked different. Harder. The soft Omega who'd loved him unconditionally was gone, replaced by someone who'd survived the impossible. Because of me, Jae-hyun thought. I did this to him. Memories flooded back unbidden. Min-seo laughing in their kitchen, hands covered in flour. Min-seo curled against his chest, whispering promises of forever. Min-seo pregnant and glowing, talking to the twins through his skin, making up stories about brave rabbits and healing foxes. I loved you, Jae-hyun whispered to the frozen image. I loved you, and I let them kill you anyway. The twins had never fully bonded with him. He'd told himself it was normal, that children took time. But now he understood. They'd sensed the lie. Their Omega biology had been searching for their real parent, and he'd never been enough. Harin stood in Jae-hyun's study, spine straight despite the fear coursing through him. He'd known this confrontation was coming. You knew. Jae-hyun's voice was deadly quiet. You knew Min-seo was alive. I suspected. Then I helped him. Harin met his eyes. Yes. How long? Does it matter? You destroyed him first. Harin's voice shook. Those children cry for him in their sleep, Jae-hyun. They know. On some level they've always known. That's impossible. Is it? Harin pulled out his phone, showed him the pediatrician reports he'd been hiding. Developmental delays. Attachment disorder. The doctors blamed premature birth, but I researched it. Omega children suffer without their biological parent bond. It's not just emotional, it's physical, chemical. They're incomplete without him. Jae-hyun sank into his chair, the reports swimming before his eyes. Elevated cortisol levels. Sleep disturbances. Failure to properly bond with either parent despite all intervention attempts. Minji asked me last week why she feels empty inside. Harin continued softly. She's 3 years old, and she already knows something vital is missing. That's what you did when you took them from Minesio. I thought, Jaehyun's voice broke. I thought I was protecting them, building them a better life. You built them a prison. Harin's expression was a mix of pity and contempt. And now they're paying for your choices. The pain hit me without warning, doubling me over in Tae-suk's safe house. A sharp, twisting agony in my chest that had nothing to do with physical injury. Minesio? Tae-suk was at my side instantly. What's wrong? The twins. I gasped through gritted teeth. Something's wrong. I can feel it. That's not possible. The bond was never completed. It doesn't matter. The pain intensified. They're distressed. Scared. I can feel them. Omega biology was supposed to require skin contact, scenting, bonding rituals. But pregnancy changed things. For 9 months, we'd been one organism. Some connections couldn't be broken by distance or time. Tae-suk's expression hardened. We can extract them. Tonight. I have teams ready. No. I forced myself upright despite the pain. Violence would traumatize them worse. They're already suffering. Then what do you want to do? I don't know. The law recognizes Harin as their mother. I'm legally dead. We can't just, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Encrypted message. We need to talk. About the children. KJH. Jaehyun. The alpha who'd tried to erase me was asking to talk. It's a trap, Tae-suk said immediately. Maybe. I stared at the message. Or maybe he finally understands what he's done. You're not meeting him alone. He's their father, Tae-suk. This isn't just about revenge anymore. I met his eyes. If there's a chance, any chance, of getting my children back without destroying them in the process, I have to try. Tae-suk's jaw clenched, alpha possessiveness and jealousy warring with logic. I don't trust him. And I don't trust him near you. I know. I touched his face, feeling the tension there. But they're suffering. I can feel it. And I'll do whatever it takes to stop their pain. Even if it meant facing the alpha who'd broken me. Even if it cost me everything. Jaehyun stood in the twins' doorway, watching them sleep fitfully. Minji whimpered, tangled in her sheets. Saiwa's small face was tight with distress even in unconsciousness. As Jaehyun watched, Minji's eyes moved rapidly behind closed lids, caught in some dream. Her lips moved, forming words he had to strain to hear. Appa-min. Appa-min, come back. The sound of his daughter calling for another parent, the right parent, shattered something fundamental in Jaehyun's chest. All his justifications, all his political maneuvering, all his power meant nothing if his children were suffering because of his choices. He'd built an empire on Minasio's grave. Now that grave was empty, and everything he'd constructed was collapsing. Some mistakes can't be undone. But I had to try, even if it cost me everything I'd built on his grave. Jaehyun pulled out his phone and typed a second message. Name the place. I'll come alone. For them. Before I tell you what happens next, subscribe to Starry-Eyed Lovers, and tell me where you're watching from. The courthouse steps were swarmed with reporters when Tae-suk's legal team filed the motion. I watched from the car as cameras flashed, journalists shouting questions at the stone-faced lawyers carrying documents that would blow apart 3 years of carefully constructed lies. Petition for DNA testing. Custody hearing. Fraud investigation into falsified birth certificates and death records. Every legal weapon we had, deployed simultaneously. By evening, the headlines screamed across every screen. Dead Omega returns. Mafia air fraud scandal. My face, old photos from before the death. Plastered beside images of Jaehyun's perfect family. Jaehyun's allies are scrambling, Tae-suk reported, scrolling through intelligence updates. 3 families have already demanded emergency meetings. Harin's father is threatening to withdraw all support. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt hollow. Jaehyun's office had become a war room of desperate damage control. Lawyers, family members, business partners, all demanding answers he couldn't give. You told us the Omega was dead. Harin's father slammed his fist on the desk. You built this alliance on that foundation. The marriage contract, the merger, everything, it's all void. Built on lies. I thought he was dead. Your thoughts don't matter. Facts matter. Legal reality matters. The older Alpha's face was purple with rage. My son's name is attached to fraudulent birth certificates. Do you understand what that means? Another ally cut in. Our investments were contingent on the legitimacy of your heir situation. If those children aren't legally Harin's, they're mine, Jaehyun said quietly. Biologically mine. That hasn't changed. But their mother is Lee Minesio. Was always Lee Minesio. Jaehyun looked at the assembled faces, saw the judgment, the calculation of who would benefit most from his downfall. His empire, built so carefully over 3 years, was crumbling like sand castles before a tide. Protect the power, or protect the children. He thought of Minji calling out for Appa Min in her sleep, of Saiwa's haunted eyes, of 3 years of half-bonding and attachment issues he blamed on everything except the truth. I'm cooperating with Minesio's legal team, he announced. DNA testing, custody evaluation, whatever he needs. The room erupted in protests, but Jae-hyun was done listening. Some things were more important than empires. I found myself on the balcony at 3 in the morning, staring at city lights and feeling nothing like triumph. The legal papers had been filed. The machinery of justice was grinding forward. Soon I'd have my children back. So why did I feel so empty? You should be sleeping. Taesuk's voice came from behind me. Big week ahead. I can't. I didn't turn around. Taesuk, what if they hate me? I'm a stranger. Harin's raised them. Jaehyun's been their papa. I'm just the ghost who came back. He moved beside me, close enough that I could feel his warmth. They knew you the moment they met you. Knowing and wanting are different things. My voice cracked. What if I get them back and I'm broken? What if 3 years of surviving made me into something that can't be apparent? Minesio. I'm serious. I don't know if I can do this. If I'm enough. Taesuk's hand caught my chin, turning my face toward his. His expression was fierce, certain. I didn't save you for revenge. What? I told myself it was about destroying Jaehyun. About using you as a weapon. His thumb traced my cheekbone. But that was a lie. I saved you because I saw someone worth saving. Someone strong enough to survive the impossible. And that person is more than enough for those children. The kiss happened before I could process it. His lips on mine, desperate and healing and nothing like Jaehyun's calculated affection. This was raw, honest, a promise in physical form. When we broke apart, I was shaking. I'm falling for you. I didn't mean to, but... Good, he murmured against my temple. Because I've been falling for you since I watched you refuse to break. Guilt twisted through me. Was this betrayal? Moving on too fast. But Jaehyun had killed what we had 3 years ago. This was different. This was choice. Stay with me, I whispered. When I get them back, help me figure out how to be a family. Always. His arms tightened around me. Whatever you need. I'm here. Harin's press conference was broadcast live. I watched from Taesuk's safe house as he stood before cameras, spine straight despite the fear in his eyes. I was coerced into this marriage, he said, voice steady. The children I've raised deserve their real parent, Lee Min-seo, who survived an attempt on his life and has fought for 3 years to reclaim what was stolen. I support his custody petition fully. The reporters erupted with questions. Harin's phone was already blowing up, his family disowning him, social connections severing, everything he'd known dissolving. Later, he came to meet me in person. We sat across from each other, 2 Omegas destroyed by the same Alpha's ambition. I love them too, Harin said quietly. But they're yours. They always were. You raised them, cared for them when I couldn't. I met his eyes. I'm not trying to erase you. What are you saying? When this is over, when I have custody, you can still be in their lives. As their auntie, if you want. Harin's eyes filled with tears. I'd like that. Thank you. The DNA results were delivered in a sealed envelope. Taesuk's lawyer opened it in front of witnesses, cameras recording everything for the court record. 99.99% match. Lee Min-seo is confirmed as the biological parent of both children. The twins' birth certificates were officially flagged as fraudulent. Emergency custody hearing scheduled in 3 days. I stared at the paper, hands shaking. It's real. This is actually happening. You're going to be amazing, Taesuk promised. Minji sat very still as Papa Jaehyun and Mama Harin explained things using simple words. Something about Uncle Minseo being special. Being their real Appa. I knew, she said when they finished. He smells right. Saiwa looked confused. But why didn't anyone tell us? Why did you lie? Jaehyun's face crumpled in a way Minji had never seen. Adults weren't supposed to cry, but Papa was crying now. I made terrible mistakes. I'm so sorry. Can we see him? Minji asked. Our real Appa? Soon. Very soon. Harin pulled them close. He's been waiting to meet you properly. Can we have 2 papas? Saiwa's voice was small. And Mama Harin? Can everyone stay? The adults exchanged looks that Minji didn't understand yet. But she knew one thing. The man who smelled like flowers was coming back. And that made the empty feeling in her chest a little less scary. 3 days until the custody hearing. I stood in front of the mirror, practicing what I'd say to my children when I finally, officially, got to call them mine. 3 years ago, they stole my future, I whispered to my reflection. Tomorrow, I start writing a new one, with my children on my terms. Taesuk's hand found my shoulder, solid and real. And for the first time in 3 years, I let myself believe it might actually be possible. The courtroom was packed with reporters, mafia families, and curious observers who'd followed the scandal for weeks. I sat at the plaintiff's table, hands folded to hide their shaking, and tried not to look at Jae-hyun across the aisle. "Mr. Lee," the judge began, "please tell the court, in your own words, what happened 3 years ago." I took a breath and spoke. Told them about the betrayal, the pregnancy, the staged death. 3 years of being erased, of fighting to survive, of watching my children grow up through photographs while my body screamed for them. My voice cracked when I described meeting them in the park, how they'd known me despite everything. "I love them," I finished quietly. "I've loved them since before they were born. And I'm asking this court to give me the chance to finally be their parent." Jae-hyun's testimony shocked everyone. He stood, composed but broken, and admitted everything. I failed them. I prioritized power over family, political alliances over the Omega I'd bonded with. Min Seo deserves full custody. I'm asking only for the chance to earn back their trust through supervised visitation. Harin confirmed the coercion, the fraud, supported my petition completely. Those children need their real parent. I'm grateful to have known them, but they're his. The judge's ruling came after 2 hours of deliberation. Full custody granted to Lee Min Seo. Supervised visitation for Kang Jae-hyun, pending psychological evaluation. Jung Ha-rin granted continued contact as approved by the custodial parent. I heard the words but couldn't process them. Taesuk's hand found mine under the table, grounding me. I'd won. My children were mine. The mansion felt like a mausoleum as I walked through its halls for the last time, coming to collect my children. Saiwoo and Minji stood in the foyer with their packed bags, faces uncertain, caught between excitement and fear. "Hi," I said softly, kneeling to their level. "Ready to come home with me? Is it really forever?" Saiwoo asked. "You won't disappear again?" The question cut deep. "Forever. I promise. Nothing will take me away from you again." Minji threw her arms around my neck. "Do you love us even though you left?" I pulled them both close, breathing in their scent, my scent, finally unmistakable. "I never left, baby. They took me away. But I fought to come back every single day. Every minute. Because you're my children, and I love you more than anything in this world." "Even more than Papa Jay?" Saiwoo whispered. "Even more than anything," I confirmed. We moved their things to Taesuk's property, a secure house that felt warm instead of fortress-like. That night, I tucked them into their new beds, heart pounding with the enormity of this moment. First bedtime. First night as a real family. "Appa." Minji's voice was small in the darkness. "Will you sing? What do you want to hear?" "The flower song. From our dreams." I hadn't sung it in 3 years, but the words came easily. A lullaby I'd made up during pregnancy, singing to them through my skin. As the melody filled the room, both children's eyes went wide. "That's it," Saiwa breathed. "That's the song. You remember?" My voice caught. "We always remembered," Minji said, already drowsy. "We just didn't know why." I sang until they slept, and felt something click into place in my chest. The Omega parent-child bond, finally complete after 3 years of aching emptiness. My body recognized them. Their bodies recognized me. We were whole. Taesuk found me crying in the hallway afterward. "They're asleep?" "Finally." "Taesuk, what if I mess this up? What if I'm not enough?" He pulled me close, hands gentle on my face. "You didn't mess anything up. You survived. That's different. I'm terrified. Good parents are." He kissed my forehead. "I don't need you to be perfect. I need you to let me love you. Let me help. Let me be part of this." "The twins asked if you're going to be their other papa," I admitted. "What did you tell them?" "That it's complicated." I met his eyes. "Is it complicated?" "Only if you want it to be." His expression was open, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen. "I want this. You them all of it. But only if you choose me. Not because I saved you. Because you want me." I thought of Jae-hyun. How he'd claimed me without asking, controlled me in the name of protection. Taesuk was offering something different. Choice. Partnership. "I choose you," I whispered. "I choose us." The kiss was different from our first, not desperate but certain. A promise of future instead of survival. Jae-hyun's first supervised visitation was awkward, painful, necessary. He arrived with elaborate gifts that I rejected immediately. Earn their trust first. Toys come later. The twins were uncertain, remembering him but feeling the shift in dynamics. Jae-hyun handled it better than I expected. Humble, honest, meeting them at their level. "I hurt your appa," he told them simply. "I made terrible choices, and I'm sorry. I'm going to try to be better. To be the papa you deserve. They read books together. Simple stories, nothing heavy. Saiwoo eventually climbed into Jaehyun's lap, seeking comfort from the father he'd known for 3 years. My chest tightened watching it, not jealousy, but grief for what should have been. Thank you, Jaehyun said as he left. For letting me try. This is for them. Not you. But my tone was softer than before. They need you to be better. I will be. He paused at the door. They're safer with you than they ever were with me. I see that now. The attack came 2 weeks later, a rival family making a desperate play for leverage. They breached the property at dawn, targeting the children's room. Taesuk's security responded instantly, but I was faster. Omega parent instinct overrode fear, turning me into something fierce and protective. I got the twins into the safe room and stood between them and the threat, ready to die before I let anyone touch them. Taesuk fought with brutal efficiency. And then Jaehyun arrived, tipped off by his own intelligence network, and threw himself into the battle without hesitation. 3 adults who should have been enemies, fighting as one to protect 2 children. When it was over, we stood together in the wreckage, bloodied but alive. This can't keep happening, Jaehyun said quietly. They need stability. Within the week, he stepped down from mafia leadership. Taesuk absorbed his organization through negotiated merger. A new power structure emerged with ironclad guarantees. The children were untouchable, protected by all sides. 6 months later, life had found its rhythm. The twins thrived, developmental improvements, genuine happiness. Taesuk was integrated into every aspect of our lives, teaching them self-defense and reading bedtime stories with equal dedication. Harin visited weekly, now a friend instead of an adversary. Jaehyun's visits increased from supervised to trusted, though the damage between us would never fully heal. I started therapy, began advocacy work for Omega rights, found purpose in the scars. And then Taesuk proposed on an ordinary Tuesday, the twins having helped him pick the ring. Be my mate. Let me be their father legally. This time, when I accepted, it was choice. Not duty or survival or political alliance. Love. Partnership. Equality. Appa, smile. Minji commanded during our first official family photo session. You're allowed to be happy now. I looked at Taesuk's hand on my shoulder, at my children laughing, at this impossible family we'd built from ashes. And I smiled, really smiled, for the first time in years. They tried to bury me. Instead, I grew roots deeper than their lies. My children know my name now. My alpha chose me freely. My life is mine again. This is what rising from the dead looks like. Messy, complicated, beautiful. And I would do it all again. Every scar, every tear, every impossible fight. For this moment. For them. For us.